Hello everybody, happy Friday. Today is November, oh my glory, I need new glasses. November the 8th. Hi everybody, so great to see you. Hi everybody already in the live chat. Hi everybody coming in as we do today's video, and hello everybody on the replay. What's awesome about the replay is you can skip around, right? We're live and this is our opportunity to hang out with everybody, so there's a lot of chit chat. And if that's not your jam, you can just skip around, right? Hi, everybody. I'm going to give it a second for everybody to join in, and I'm going to pull this up just to make sure we're moving along over on the YouTubes. Give me 1 second, everybody. Okay, yeah, we're moving along. Hi, everybody. Whew, we're gonna jump right in here in just a second after I get on my screens straight, and but I want to give it a minute so that everyone gets notified and can join in. I have some really fun stuff for you today, and number one, there's no rules to it, and we are busting out our scraps. I know that all of us have them. Some of us collect them more than others, right? Before we moved here, I had a much bigger sewing space and I had a much bigger area for my fabric, and I had a lot more scraps. So when we moved here, I am crammed in a much smaller space and I have to be really selective. And when my scraps start building up, I have to use them up. It's like use or lose time, right? I have to use up the scraps, or they got to go somewhere because I can't keep them all here. So today is going to be a really great project for using up those scraps. And it's quilt as you go too. So it's kind of like a win-win. And there's no rules to this. So today's project is really just going to push you into thinking outside the box, and I'm only going to show you 2 different ways, but there are countless ways you could do this using the same pattern that I'm sharing with you today. This pattern, it's just a 1-page PDF, y'all, and it's down in the description box. This is it. That's it. We're basically using the shape of the stocking and maybe doing some raw edge applique if you want to. You'll see that I've made 2 of these little mug rugs so far, right? Different styles. One of them I used 2 of the applique shapes, and this one I didn't use any at all. Both super adorable. So we're gonna do 2 different examples in today's video. Hi everybody. Y'all, we have been so busy this week. It has been pumpkin week here at my house. I processed 4 really good sized pumpkins. I got 16 pints of pumpkin canned and 12 quart-sized bags of pumpkin that we freeze dried. That's a lot of pumpkin. Last night, I just have to say, before we just dive right in, last night I made the most amazing pumpkin bread. It had a streusel, a crunchy little topping on the top. And it also had a maple honey glaze, which was delicious. And I can't believe I'm saying this. The glaze made it a little bit too sweet. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that a thing? I can't believe I'm even saying that. It was delicious, but the next time I make this pumpkin bread, I'll probably leave the glaze off because even for me, it kind of just pushed it over the top, but it was so good. It was so good. All right, now 2 more things before we jump in. Hi, everybody. Patreon members, I have uploaded your special free pattern for this month. It's a trivet. It's exclusive for Patreon members. You can grab this. And during the quilt retreat, we're going to do a sew along where hopefully everyone has a chance to make this with me during the quilt retreat. So don't forget that that is over on that page. I'm going to knock my drink over. A lot of times I have new viewers that join in each week. And usually at least once a week I have someone ask me, what is Patreon? Patreon is like a membership club, right? And you can join us over there. We do two things for sure on Patreon. You get a free pattern, sometimes exclusive, like it's only found on Patreon for Patreon members, and a quilt retreat. Last month, it was a 3-day quilt retreat. We didn't go for 3 days solid, but it was good chunks throughout 3 days, right, with workshops. This month, we're doing a 24-hour quilt retreat for the night owls, right? So we do a lot of fun stuff. Today's pattern link will bring you over to Patreon, but this pattern that we're doing today is free. You don't have to become a member of Patreon to get the stocking pattern for today's Mugrug. Lisa said, I'm doing my first embroidered quilt. It's mushrooms for my youngest grandbaby. Oh! If you're on Facebook, find a way to share it with us. Catherine said, who doesn't love pumpkin bread, right? Well, my dad, he doesn't love pumpkin anything. So we slighted my dad making pumpkin bread because the rest of us, we all love it. And he doesn't like it at all. Okay, and one more thing before we move on, okay? Stay tuned to the end of today's video. If you have to leave, like I know Peggy, she's driving. She might miss out. Come back on the replay and stay to the end. I have something special for you. You're not going to want to miss it. I hinted about it a couple of times on Facebook this week. Jenna said, when do you sleep? Actually, I sleep really good. I sleep like a rock most nights. Let's scroll down and let's get ready to get started. I have to focus. I have too much sugar from maple butter glaze in my system. And I'm just moving things around. So, oh, your first applique quilt, Lisa. That's awesome. Darlene, Heather has been trying to get in touch with you. Go look her up on Facebook. Y'all, if you are on Facebook and you haven't followed my business page, I'm posting a couple little fun things over there, so you might want to check me out over on Facebook too. All right. Y'all, this is so easy. You're not going to believe how easy this is, and it's fun. Like, we don't have to set a 1/4 inch seam allowance. May, where are you going, girl? You don't have to do any of that stuff. Most quilting rules, we're throwing them out the window today. Okay? No rules today. Let's come on down to my desk. All right, here we are. So here's my first two examples, right? Perfect size little mug rug, even though it's not your typical rectangle or square mug rug, right? Glass sits here, snack fits there. You can wash these. They're great to use instead of paper towels, right? So they're the perfect size, even though this shape is a little funny for a mug rug. Instructions, super easy. Just cut out your stocking shape, right? Just like so. Just cut it out right on the line. Now you're going to see I left a little or made some marks here so that you can leave your opening right there. On my first one, I left the opening at the top, and I found it was hard to push out the little corners when I left my opening at the top. My second one, I left my opening over here, and see the difference in my corners of my stocking. So it doesn't matter where you leave your opening, but my suggestion is right there. Okay. So go ahead and cut out your stocking. Find yourself some quilt batting, right? Today I'm using Warm and Natural, and I've cut it out twice. So lay your stocking right on your batting. You can trace around it, or 505 spray this, or glue stick it to your batting and cut around it with your rotary cutter or scissors. However you want to do that, you need the cutout shape of your pattern, okay? We're doing 2 today, and no, we're not gonna breeze through them. We're gonna take our time and have fun. Okay. Yeah. One thing I did want to do on one of them, possibly, is do the little heel and toe area and a cuff for the stocking, right? So let's go ahead and trace that and get that done so I don't forget. Brenna said, hallelujah, no rules. I know, right? This is one of those, you know, if you're feeling like you want to create something, but you're just not in the mood to like really pay close attention to what you're doing. You just want to have fun. Projects like this, that's what you should do. All right, I have my little mini glow pad here, and one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this is that if you want to cut these out in applique, raw edge applique, you're not going to trace the pattern from the right side, right? We're going to flip the pattern over. So that's why I have my little light pad. You could use the window, right? But I'm going to be using Heat and Bond light, and I'm tracing my applique shapes from the back side of the paper, okay? So let's just go ahead. Let me get this big one done first. What's really fun about these is you could hand embroider or machine embroider and make a whole bunch of these and do family members' names on them, right? If you don't want to hand embroider and you don't have an embroidery machine, you could use a fabric marker. How easy is that, right? You could also, if you have a cutting machine, you could cut their names out of heat transfer vinyl and just press it right on the cuff when you're done. So there's some ideas on how you could customize it. There's the heel and the toe. Of course, I used a gel pen, and it takes a second for it to dry, so I'm smearing it all over my hand. But that's okay. All right, so there's the 3 applique shapes traced onto our Heat and Bond, and we're ready to jump in, right? Oh, good. Darlene just answered you, Heather. Brenda said, mindless sewing and creating. Those are my favorite days. I mean, I do a lot of stuff, but the days where I'm just having fun and I don't really have to think a lot, those are my favorite. All right, let me warm up this iron because from here on out, not here on out, for the first example, I'm going to be using a glue stick. Right, this is just a normal Elmer's glue stick. Let's move this, and let's move this out of the way for just a minute because we're not there yet. And let me bring up this. This is my scrap bin. Little cuts of stuff, right? We all have them. They get stuffed into this, and when this is like, I can barely close it, and when it gets to this, I have to start doing something with it. It has to get used up because I have no other storage space for it. And who wants to throw this stuff away? Not me. So let's just come on in here. And here's the thing, y'all. We're doing a Christmas project in November. It's still fall. There isn't a lot of Christmas fabric in here, I can tell you that. But green is Christmassy, red is Christmassy, Blue is sort of wintry, right? That could be Christmas. And I don't even care that that isn't Christmas fabric. Do you know what I'm saying? It's going to be cut into the shape of a Christmas stocking, and that's Christmassy enough for me. Okay, so I'm just going to start pulling at some random scraps. Make some space, Lisa. Little bits of this, and little bits of that. Greens. Do we have a solid green? There's one. We'll use that. We'll use that. And y'all know me, I'm going to try to find a little bit of brown. That's a little bit dark. How about this brown, which is more like a taupe? Really? Is that taupe? Let's see. I'm just digging. I'm not even thinking too much about it. Now I will say that's a good piece. We're going to need a good sized chunk for the back of our stocking. So let me just see. Is it bigger than my stocking? Yes. There's one of my stocking backs right there. Let me put that to the side so I don't lose it. I know I probably have a couple more good sized chunks. Here's one. And it's bigger than my stocking. There's my other quilt back right there. And there's some red we might use. I was hoping to find maybe a little bit more red, but I don't know that there's a lot of red in here. Let's get this blue right there. I think that's a good chunk for now. That's a good little pile for right this second. Let me cram that closed. All right, so here is my selection, right? We're gonna grab our first little stocking, our batting, this cut into the shape of a stocking. And I'm gonna heat up this iron because I will press these. Y'all, these are just piled into a big cluster in there and they're wrinkly, but I don't necessarily want to use them wrinkly like that, right? So I will press them before I glue them down, right? On this one, I decided since I'm using the toe, this one I'm gonna do strips of fabric going this way. And I'll show you why. Where's my little stocking I did? The first one I did, here you go. I did my strips going this way. And then I really loved that little black fabric down there. And if I put the toe on, I would have covered that up. So I didn't do the toe on this one. This time, I think I'm going to do my fabrics and strips going that way. So when I do a toe, my strips will be going that way. Cut your strips however wide you want them to be, right? I think the only thing that matters is that they go off the edge of your batting by just a little bit, okay? So you're going to see me. I'm going to be hacking into these fabrics. And I'm going to start right down here. Actually, a rotary cutter would be much faster, wouldn't it? And I can feel the edge of that stocking. See, if I just press it, you can see it a little bit, right? And I'm just going to cut. Leaving just a little bit of extra. I should have changed that blade, y'all. I've been saying for like 4 weeks, I need to change the blade of my rotary cutter. Now watch this. Actually, this one is bigger. This is one of the like the jumbo glue sticks. It covers more real estate area. See that? All I'm doing is gluing these fabrics. You could, if you wanted to, put some heat and bond line on the back of your fabrics and then cut them, right? If you wanted. There's my first fabric. You could use steam-a-seam, you could use any of the fusibles that you like to use, right? But look how soft my mug rug is because there's no fusibles other than the applique parts. Super soft. Let's see, let me just pre-measure and cut. I think the important thing here, even though I said no rules, and this isn't a rule really, but you kind of want these fabrics to overlap each other. So that's where my blue fabric ends. The red one, I'm just going to overlap it just a little bit. Just a smidgen. We're going to have a raw edge right there, okay? But that's overlapped. I know that I don't want to use that whole strip, so we're cutting. So you could have a movie on. You could be listening to a podcast. You could be in a quilt retreat where there's a lot of conversation going on and you don't want to miss the conversation, but you like staying busy. This is perfect, right? No measuring. And the first time you wash this, the glue that you're adding now is going to wash out. That's going to be super cute right there. What else? Let's add some more blue towards the top. Cutting and pressing. Yeah, I did 16 pints of pumpkin. Let me just tell you, that was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. Canning 4 pumpkins. They were good sized pumpkins too. That was pretty much an all-day project, to be honest with you. I'm just overlapping. Now, one thing is that I might want to go just a small little strip because I don't think my applique is going to cover that little bit right there. I didn't even think about that. So let me add one more strip. Yeah, that pumpkin took me all day. Can y'all hear all the roosters going off in the background? I have my windows open because it is just too nice not to. How many days in the year do we have that it's comfortable to leave your windows open, right? So when it's like this, I'm trying to take advantage of it the best I can. But there are roosters all over the dang place. All right, so that looks like a hot mess right now, right? It does. Let's move this stuff out of the way. I was so organized before we started, and now it looks like a big storm has come through. All right, so here is my stocking from the back side, right? I have plenty of fabric going all the way around my stocking over the edge. But I want to go ahead and dry that glue, right? I'm going to use a Teflon sheet right on top of it. okay? And that's just going to ensure that if I got glue anywhere, it's not going to get on my iron. And I'm just going to dry this glue really quickly with my iron. You could do the same thing with a pressing cloth, with a piece of parchment paper. It's just going to protect your iron from any glue that you might have been messy with. Catherine, I did not bake the pumpkin first. I boiled it for the 2 minutes like the ball book says, right? But I'm going to be baking it next time, let me just tell you. Of course, I watched some tutorials after I was done, and they all baked theirs, and I thought, well, that is probably so much faster than what I did. We're going to let that cool off. No, I peeled those 4 big pumpkins. I cut them apart, cleaned them all out nice and pretty on the inside, chopped them up into big pieces, and then peeled them, and then cubed them and blanched them. And then I saw where people just clean out the insides, bake them, and then scoop out the pumpkin on the inside. And how much more simple would that have been? Right? Okay, so that's nice and cool. Let's bring it back over here. Lesson learned for next year. I can tell you I will be doing it differently than I did this year. Savannah, actually there's no glue on my mat. No. No glue. And even if there was, you could wash this off, right? Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now so that I can accurately place my applique is just clean this up a little bit, right? Because we all know I need a new rotary cutter blade. I think I have the easiest time just trimming this by hand. Here's the thing. I have found when I'm turning my projects right side out, right, and we have a little opening, the more I have to tuck in that opening, the better I do, the neater of a job I do with tucking that inside in that opening space. So right this minute, all I really want to do, I'm going to leave more extra where I'm going to turn this right side out. But this initial trim, I don't have to be super spot on, right? I just want to get the basic shape of the stocking so I can accurately place my applique pieces, okay? So I'm just going to be real simple and quick with that, but give myself some extra space where that opening is going to be. And we do want to go ahead and get that applique placed down at this stage, because when we bring this over to the sewing machine, we're going to just quickly sew down all the raw edges, right? And then we can also, while we're there, sew down the edges of the applique. See? That'll help me accurately place where those applique pieces are going to be. So let's pick out a fabric for that. That would look cute. Is that big enough? Let me cut these out and separate them. At this stage, I'm just cutting around the shape. I'm not cutting it out on the line just yet, right? We wait to do that until after it's fused to our fabric. So there. Lisa, it is warm here too. Matter of fact, I had this closed because there was a chicken right outside my window earlier. And it was so loud. But yeah, it's like summer in November. So let's bring this to the pressing board. I'm going to press these 3 shapes on the back side of this fabric here. But first, because it's wrinkly, let's go ahead and give that a press. It just does fit. It's almost like I planned it, but I did not. Okay, we're gonna let that cool off for just a second. And then all we have to do is cut these 3 shapes out. Yeah, next year I'm baking my pumpkins. I think that would have been so much more simple. That's all right. I learned. And you know what? The pumpkin is delicious. So it was so worth it. But that was a lot of work. And it was hot in there that day too. And you know, if you're canning, which, you know, I pressure canned the pumpkin, that made it even more hot in the kitchen. And I was like, wow. I thought that this was going to be so much more faster than, you know, I thought, you know, I'll can this pumpkin first thing this morning, and this afternoon I'll do this and that. Nope. It was almost an all-day job. There's 2 pieces. That goes back in the scraps. That goes back in the scraps. And there's my 3rd piece. Now these little slivers, they have served their purpose at this point. I'm going to toss those. And I'm just going to take this paper backing right off the back. I like removing my paper from the middle out. It's less chance I'm going to pull and fray the ends, right? That's just me. Oh no, Wanda, am I still buffering for you? It looks like I'm running on my end, but you never know with my internet. You just never know. Let's come back over here. And I can just make out the shape of my stocking. And we're going to go ahead and fuse these pieces in place. Like there's the cuff, and don't be confused because I did leave extra right there for the opening. But actually I can scoot it over just a little bit. There we go. There's that piece. And another great thing about fusing the applique at this stage is that any parts of the applique that are running along the edge of the stocking are going to be caught in the seam when we join it to the back of our stocking, right? So this, we don't have to sew in any of that. But inside the stocking, we're going to do a little sewing line. Now, how cute is that? Now I can already see this little flappy part right there? I think I'm going to add a little bit more glue to that. So I'm just going to lift it up. I Actually, maybe the smaller glue stick would work better. And glue it down. All right, so there is our first stocking, right? Just strips of fabric. Just strips with some raw edge applique. Y'all, I'm losing my voice already. All right, now the second one is going to be a little bit different, right? Let me bring you over here. And for this one, I'm just going to move my whole pressing board over here. I think that that would be more simple. And the way that I did it is I used a piece of fusible interfacing. So y'all know me, I have bolts and lots of scraps of Pelon P44F. This is what I use in my t-shirt quilts. It's very lightweight. It's got a bumpy adhesive side. It's got a smooth side, right? The bumpy side is the adhesive. You could use any kind of fusible stabilizer or interfacing that you have, right? Let me just go ahead and cut off a piece that's big enough for my stocking with a little bit of extra hangover, right? So look, from this one scrap, I can make another stocking. Now this one, we're gonna not work with the batting, but we're gonna be working with this fusible, with the bumpy side facing up. And this one, we're gonna do sort of like a patchwork collage, okay? So you can just have fun placing a whole bunch of random shaped scraps, right? Which is great for pieces like this. And because we cut the base of this bigger than our stocking, right? It's going to be bigger. Some parts may or may not get used, right? So your favorite fabrics, make sure you're placing those towards the middle because any of the extra parts might get cut off, right? So we're just going to have fun. I'm going to scoot this over a little bit. I do want to press some of these pieces because they're wrinkly. And I don't think I want that random of a shape. So I will cut some parts off. Just sort of make it a little bit neater like that. And I'm just going to start overlaying them here on my interfacing. Just know that the more pieces you have on here, the more seams you're going to have to sew over, right? Each one of these edges will need to be sewn down in some sort of way. I'm not fusing anything down yet because what if I change my mind, right? There might be. Nope, let's go this way. There might come a time when I change my mind and want to move a fabric here and there. Now we'll do this random shape like that. Let's press this one. Y'all, I had my interview for the newspaper this week. She was super, super nice. I think the article for our farm stand and my bread recipe is going to be in next week's paper. I could be wrong. But she took a picture of me next to our farm stand sign. I really wish Harlan was working from home that day because really the farm stand is his thing. You know what I'm saying? I just am his assistant with the farm stand. So I really feel like he should have been in the picture. But it was just me. How cute that's going to be like that. Overlap your edges. Let me take a sip of this drink because I'm getting really hot. Laurel, this will be overlapped on our batting. But right now we're just doing a collage of fabrics. And this interfacing has a fusible that's going to make it like a brand new piece of fabric. The whole thing will be like one piece. And then we'll overlap it with our batting in just a minute. Right, Becky? That one? Isn't that pretty? Not only did she get my bread recipe, she asked for more. So I gave her my Grand's baked chocolate custard and my chocolate cake recipe. So I don't know what all is going to be in the paper, but I gave her those 3. And then I got a message from her today asking if I take orders for my bread. And then I was scared, right? I'm like, yes. But I don't want to be bombarded. You know, like today I have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make 12 loaves of bread before I go to work. Do you know what I'm saying? But it is super awesome though. See why I haven't fused anything? So I can sort of, if I change my mind, I can move things around. See that? I like that little random piece of fabric right there. It's sort of like the story of my life. Random. All right, and we just need a little sliver up there, which is probably going to get cut off. But let's just do it. Darlene said, yay, now you are more famous. I wouldn't consider myself famous at all. But yesterday, my phone rang, and the president of the Matthews Museum, History Museum, called me. I don't know where he got my number from. They have a quilt exhibit from, evidently there was a quilter in Matthews a long time ago, or a family of quilters, and they are displaying their quilts in the Matthews museum in town, and he invited me to come see them personally. So I'm like, yes, I will be there Saturday. So I'm actually really excited to go do that. This looks like a hot mess. It's kind of blending in with this blue fabric that I covered this board in, right? So it might look confusing. The key point is like the one instruction I have for you. Cover the interfacing all the way. Don't leave no gaps, right? Cover it and use a pressing cloth just in case. So I'm just breaking out my Teflon sheet again. And now we are pressing all these fabrics into that glue, right? So we took all the scraps from different fabrics, and we are making one piece of fabric from them. I know I might get bombarded with bread orders. A year from now, you'll be like, Lisa who? She retired so she could make bread. She doesn't make quilt videos anymore. I'm just kidding. I love baking bread. But y'all, I make one style of bread. That's it. Right now, anyway. All right, we're gonna let that cool off for just a second, and then we're gonna flip it and press it from the other side just to make sure that that adhesive is bonded to the fabric really well. Carmen, the cool thing about this pattern is there's no cutting instructions. You just pull your scraps out and use what you have. Cut it however big or small you want them to be, and just have fun playing with collaging them together, right? No sitting and cutting according to a pattern. This is, you are making this up as you go. I kind of love that. We just flip it over. I'm going to press it one more time from this side. Kim, now I want some coffee. Don't you love having a coffee in the middle of the day or like after supper? It used to be I could drink a cup of coffee and go straight to bed. Sometimes I can still do that, but the older I get, the harder it is to do that. So I can still have a cup of coffee like 6:37-ish. That's about as late. And I don't do decaf coffee. Or else I could drink that right before I went to bed. But there's my one piece of fabric from all these fabrics, right? That's still really hot. We're going to let that cool off for just a second. Now the cool thing is, here's our little stocking shape, right? Let's just flip this over like that. Let's add some glue to this. I use a lot of glue stick, don't I? That's all right. I'm just randomly gluing this right in place. Like that. And now we're going to flip, and I'm going to randomly put this right over my pieces. Like so. Let me cover this up because it's warm in here, and this glue stick will dry faster than I can say glue stick. One more time, we're going to press this and dry that glue, okay? I'm also going to take a look because what's holding all these fabrics in place is the fusible on the back side, right? That pellon. But I overlapped my fabrics in a lot of places, and that's just flopping willy-nilly, right? So I kind of want to give that a little bit of control before I start cutting this thing. So any parts that are overlapping like that, look at that. There's only a tiny bit of fusible right there, and the rest of this is just flappy. So let me just sort of secure that in place a little bit. Like so. See how easy that is? That's kind of good right there, like that. We're pressing one more time. What did I do with that pressing cloth? I think I got a little bit of glue on the edge there, so let's just cover it. Oh, Sue said she changed to tea. It's actually just the hot beverage that she wants. That's a good idea. Sometimes I drink a hot tea. Something about the coffee though, I just love it. Like after supper. Do you always use a Teflon sheet, no matter the material you are fusing? I don't always. Not always. But doing this, there's a chance, like, you know, if I wasn't paying real close attention, if I had an exposed area of this fusible, I'd really hate to get that on my iron. You know what I'm saying? And it's not hard to do. You think you've covered every inch of it, but maybe you're using some really light fabrics and there's a sliver that's not covered, right? So I try to be in a good habit of using a Teflon sheet on projects like this, but I don't always. And if you see my iron, see the dark spots? That's why you probably should get in the habit of using a Teflon sheet on a lot of these kinds of projects. All right, so that's cooled down. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna trim this too, but I'm leaving some extra because when I'm sewing all of these edges, I like to have a little bit of extra fabric that I can start my needle in and sew into the stocking. And when I stop, I don't have to stop right at the edge. I can sew off of it just a little bit, right? So that's one of the reasons also that I leave a little bit of extra at this point. And don't forget, my opening is going to be right there. I'm going to leave a little extra in that opening space. Like so. I will trim some of that as we move along. All right, now all of this, it has served its purpose. I'm going to go ahead and just release that fabric. And here's the basic shape of our stocking. It's really going to shape up as we move along. So at this point, we have two different stockings going, right? The same scraps, two different looks. What I have at the sewing machine is I have some brown thread in my bobbin, and I have that same brown thread in my top thread. And we're going to have fun stitching all of this down. And I really wanted to get both of them at this stage. We'll just go to the sewing machine one time. Today I'm going to choose a real simple zigzag stitch. Okay, so here's the important part, or the basic rule for this, right? These raw edges, you want to secure them down, right? Especially if you use this as a mug rug and it gets washed, you want these edges secure in place. Just know the looser the stitch, the more fraying you'll get with a technique like this, right? I happen to love projects that fray. I think they're very shabby and country looking. I love it. If you don't like fraying, you'll want to use a stitch along all of your edges that really secure that edge, right? So the closer and the tighter your stitch, the less your fabrics will fray over time. You don't have to have a fancy sewing machine to do this, right? But if you have a sewing machine that has a couple of decorative stitches, you can really have a lot of fun, right? Now, these are just utilitarian stitches. Like this is an overlocking stitch, and I know it's hard to see because I used a cream colored thread. So it's going to be hard to see. But in person, look how cute they are, right? You can use all different kinds of stitches. Look at that stitch right there. In your sewing machine to make this sort of look like Victorian, like a crazy quilt, right? Today I'm just going to use a zigzag stitch because it's quick, but it gets the job done. Do you know what I'm saying? Savannah says, I sew on an industrial juki that is straight stitch only. So just know, Savannah, that your edges are going to fray. Also know that I think that that's super cute, right? One thing though, with a straight stitch, you would sew right close to the edge, right? So there would only be a little tiny bit of fraying the closer you can sew to that edge. And like I used the Heat and Bond Light on my applique pieces. If you applied some kind of fusible like Heat and Bond or Steam-A-Seam, whatever, on your fabrics before you put them on your batting, that's going to help prevent some fraying over time too, right? This is just naked fabric with some glue stick. So there's really nothing to keep it from fraying. I like the fraying. So you can definitely do it with a straight stitch machine. Just know that you'll want to sew right close to the edge, right? Right along there, close to the edge. And your project's gonna breeze by because a straight stitch is super fast. All right, so we're gonna bring both of these over to the sewing machine. Let's bring this one first because it's going to go by really quick. I hope I'm not too close with that camera. Zigzag stitch. I think that will work. So just know I'm going to give you my settings for my zigzag stitch. And you can try these on whatever sewing machine you're working with. Just test them out and adjust from there because all the machines are different, right? So the width I'm going to use is a 3.0 and the length I'm using is a 1.2. And yeah, that's the little zigzag stitch I'm going to use. So first I'm going to stitch this little green smidgen of a fabric strip right there because when I sew down this straight part, it's going to overlap that little seam right there. Okay, so let's just do that first. And now I'm going to just start by sewing right across the cuff, the bottom of that cuff. All right. And now we are just sewing right on the raw edges. I'm going to sew these two, and then this one I'll start here and do that, and then sew the heel. Okay. See how fast that zigzag stitch goes? See, I'm already starting to have a little tiny bit of fraying right there. I'll just cut that off. Now these that I'm starting and stopping midway, like this right here, I'm not doing a back stitch at the beginning or the end, and I'll tell you why. The reason I did that stitch first before stitching down the applique with no back stitch, I'm not building up a layer of thickness in those stitches. They're nice and clean. And when I do the zigzag stitch this way on that edge of applique, it's going to lock these stitches in place. So that's why I didn't do a back stitch right there, right? Let's go ahead and cut these threads though. And all we have left to do on this one is the heel. Can you hear my roosters? It's a good thing we don't have neighbors like super duper close. Okay, so there's that one. Let me just show you with this camera here. Isn't that super cute? Kind of looks like a crazy quilt a little bit, right? Wanda, that's a cute idea for a mug rug. Savannah, yes. Do a wavy little stitch. That would be perfect. All right, now this one's going to take a little bit more of a hot minute, right? So to make it faster, I want you to see how wide that stitch is. A 3.0 stitch width. That's a pretty good little width with the that zigzag stitch, right? I'm going to decrease it just a little bit. 2.5. It's going to be skinnier than that, right? And I'm just going to go to town. And we have so many things going on and fabrics overlapping that it's really hard to do the correct order so that all my stitches will be overlapping, right, and locking things down. This was pretty simple to figure out what I should stitch first, right? But I tried to start with the stitches that are underneath of other fabrics so that when I do stitch them down, it locks them in place, right? I might go out of order a little bit, but I'm just gonna go to town. Just know that when I'm at the sewing machine, I cannot see the comments. So if you have a question specific for me, you might want to hold tight for just a minute. I imagine it's going to take like 5 minutes to stitch this. Although, I'm going to try to be quicker than that. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead and start right here. That seam, I'm not even going to sew that right there because look, it's off of the quilt. That's going to be in my opening. So I'm not even going to sew these right there. This one here though does go into the opening, so let's sew that. And you know what else? Something like this right here is such really good practice for doing those zigzag stitches, because you get the feel of where to stop and pivot, which side the needle should be on. It's a lot of practice. Something like this, learning where to stop and what side that needle should be on. Let's see, we do have this seam here. I'm going to sew that first. Then I'll come back and do this one there. Let's go ahead and do this one here at the bottom. Actually, this last one, I can start up here and just do one long continuous line down to here, around my little funny ship, and back up to here. And I think that's our last one. Remember, these two seams are in the opening. Actually, let's go ahead and just sew them so they don't come loose when I'm flipping that inside out, right? Or right side out. Let's just go ahead and do it. There won't be no funny business when I'm flipping that opening back inside. All right, so let me cut these strings right here. Oh, I thought that was a string. It's not. All right, now we can do that really long seam. Now right there, I will just do like a couple little back stitches just to lock that in place. Oh no, I won't. I cut the thread. I spoke too soon. That's all right. It ties a knot on the back, but if it doesn't, anywhere you're stopping in the middle like that, you might want to do a little couple lock stitches. Okay, let's come down here. That's how she looks, right? So it's quilt as you go because we stitched through not only the fabric but the batting at the same time. The only sad part is the back fabric is not going to reflect our really cool quilting, right? You could always go back in and quilt it after you've layered it. All right, so what are we doing next? Let me pull this fabric over. Remember how when I was going through my fabrics, I pulled out two bigger pieces. And while that iron is warming up, let me stuff these bits that we didn't use back in there. Look, it's overflowing. This will give me less cleanup I have to do when we're done here, right? Some days when I turn off the camera and I say goodbye, you know, and turn off the live, I have a disaster area in here. And I started off so tidy and organized. All right, let's pull these off to the side for a minute because I already know, like, can you see the wrinklies? Let's go ahead and just press this. Many years ago, and I don't even remember what video it was now. I was doing something, some tutorial or something, and I didn't press my fabric before I used it, and someone fussed at me for that. So I have learned my lesson. All right. Let's press this one too. Now these fabrics, they're just, I didn't measure it. I didn't precisely cut the fabric for the back. All we need it to be is bigger than the front, right? And I'm going to try to waste as little as possible. So I'm going to cut one out at a time. We just need it to be we need this fabric to be right side facing up. Where did I cut? There we go. All right, place your back fabric right side facing up, right? Because when we sew this, we're going to place the right side of our stocking to the right side of our back fabric. And we're going to sew all the way around the edge. So we need that back fabric. Just trying to figure out where I cut that. We need the back fabric facing up. Let's just cut across there like that. That's a good little chunk for a stocking. That's a good little chunk. See how fast the little chunks build into a big container of scraps? So there's the back for that stocking. And now let's bring in this one. Right side facing up, Lisa. The right side of our stocking facing down. That's a good scrap. No tracing the pattern, fussy cutting all that stuff out. let's stuff this back in there too, so I don't have to clean that up when we're done. It doesn't even want to stay closed anymore. All right, so at this point, we're going to bring this back to the sewing machine one last time, right? We're going to sew, and you could use a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance if you want. Just know if you do that, your stocking is going to end up a little bit smaller than what you see here, right? I'm not even going to really try to accurately keep a seam allowance. What I'm going to try to do is stay close to the edge without getting too close. If you use the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, you're going to be coming in the stocking like that much, and your stocking mug rug is going to be a tiny bit smaller. But for you, that might be the easiest thing to do, right? I'm just going to pick a straight stitch, and I'm going to use my open toe foot so you can see a little bit better. And doing that, I'm just going to sew close to the edge, okay? And don't forget, we want to leave an opening. So on this one, it has our cuff. I'm going to drop the opening below that cuff so I'm not messing with the stitches in that opening, okay? So for this one, I'm going to just mark myself with a little washable Crayola marker right there so I don't forget. We're going to leave an opening. And then on this one, it doesn't have that cuff or any seams right here that I have to really worry about. Just know the smaller your opening, the more difficult it might be turning all of this through there. That's what I struggle with the most. Wanda, you have two options, right? If you wanted to do machine embroidery like I did right there, look how perfect I got that centered in there. I was so proud of myself. You have two options. You could do it at this stage. So your stitches from the bobbin would be hidden in the middle of your mug rug, right? And you'd have a nice clean back on the back of your mug rug. This was an afterthought for me, but I was like, why wouldn't I do that? So after I made it, I was like, I'm gonna do some names on there. So my stitches show up on the back. Okay, so you could do it either way. All right, we're going back to the sewing machine one more time. She's gone to sleep. Let's pick a straight stitch. And we have some curved edges, right? So the closer your stitches are, the more curvy your edge is going to be. Depending on the batting you're using, you might be able to go really nice and tight little stitches. If you're using a thicker batting or something, you might need to increase your stitch length just a little bit for everything to feed evenly through there, right? I'm going to start off with a 2.0 and we'll adjust from there. And I'm going to start right where I made my little mark for my opening. And you'll see I'm not measuring anything. I'm just getting close to the edge without going over. And we definitely want to do a back stitch when we start and at the end when we worked all the way around. See how close I am to the edge? Can you see that? All right, that's where we're gonna stop, right? Don't forget to do your back stitches there, because if not, pulling all of that stuff through that little opening, you could just pop that seam right open right there. All right, so there's the first one. I'm gonna repeat it for the second. I'll try to be quick. But I like to take my time around the curvy parts. Let me just check for comments real quick in case I have a question. Savannah, the closer you are to the edge, the bigger your mug rug's gonna be, right? That seam allowance will eat into the size. That's really it. You can most certainly use the 1/4 inch and then use the edge of your presser foot as a guide right on the edge of that batting, right? That might be helpful. You could increase the size of the stocking, but let me just tell you, I made it about as big as it will be for an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Now, if you increased your print size, it might put it on a couple different pieces of paper and you could cut it, right? And tape it together and you could make this larger, certainly. Okay, let me go ahead and stitch this one because I have something fun to share with y'all at the end of today's video. Kind of really excited to see how this one looks when it's all trimmed up and pretty. did a quick little back stitch. Did you see that? All right. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and trim all of this extra up, right? So if you did use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you want to trim that seam allowance close to your stitching at this point, right? So my stitch length is pretty close to the edge of the batting, but I still want to get rid of all of this. I liked having the extra fabric like that right there to start and stop in, but this extra back fabric and any parts of that top fabric that we left, I'm going to go ahead and trim all of that. That'll reduce the bulkiness inside of our mug rug, right? I'm going to do it with scissors today because I have a little bit more control. And I'm going to clean this opening up and leave a little bit, right? But I don't need all of that extra, like right there. I'm going to try to be careful and not clip my stitches, right? And I have found if I cut this at an angle like that, I've found I have an easier time flipping that opening in there. So see all that extra fabric I'm going to leave? I've got extra from the top and extra from the back. And I have found, even though I struggle, I have an easier time doing that. That's just me. My 2 corners at the top, I'm going to trim them just like that, right? And then trim everything really close. Ooh, I almost cut it. No pressure, Lisa, don't cut it. Yeah, also on Patreon this month, don't forget, we are doing a digitizing workshop in Embrilliance. We're going to digitize a simple clip art picture using Stitch Artist Level 1. And then we're going to use the same picture and turn it into an SVG, or it's already been turned into it. I've already done it. But I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is using the same picture as an SVG and Stitch Artist Level 2. So that workshop, I think, is next week. There she is. Let's go ahead and trim this other one. Here's my opening right there. Right there. Let's cut the corner. Do you know what these projects would be good for? You know, I do a lot of memory quilts. I mean, I do a ton of t-shirt quilts, you know, celebrating baby years, graduation, and birthdays, and, you know, hobbies, shirts collected on vacation. I do a lot of happy occasion quilts like that, right? But I also do a lot of memory quilts from clothing where the loved one is passed, right? Sometimes there's just a few articles of clothing, but they really want to make a whole bunch of pieces to share with a lot of family members, right? So that's when the bears and the pillows and things like that come in to play. But look how simple it would be to make, even if you made a regular size stocking. You know, I have some stocking patterns in my Etsy shop. Even if you were to do that and make full-size stockings from a loved one's clothing, how special would that be, right? We're almost done, y'all. Sometimes I try to whiz through the projects, but I'm also trying to hang out with y'all for a minute. And I'm trying to do a nice and neat job. I don't have as much there on that to leave. I should have left that larger. Right there. Okay, so now comes what I think is the hardest part, is flipping this right side out, right? So if you have some hemostats, that might be helpful. The larger your opening, the easier it's going to be. But I'm going to reach in and just start grabbing stuff out. And this might take me a good little minute. I like to go grab it and then just start working it, right? Oh, Savannah, your aunt just passed yesterday? Wow, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna reach down here and grab this part and start down here. I'm so sorry, Savannah. This is the part I always speed up in my videos when I'm recording, right? I show it, but it's like... If you're here live, you get to suffer with me. If you're watching on the replay, you can just fast forward to the good part. But do you want to know what's really funny? Is, what was it, last week I made those other two I showed you already? And I did not struggle not one time turning those bad boys right side out. And I was like, this is going to be a piece of cake, finally. I'll do a video where I don't struggle. Nope. Once you start getting a good chunk out, then it's easy from there. I like using the hemostats because you can reach in deep and grab. But I'll tell you, they got little teeth grippies, right? And because there's so many raw edges inside there, I'm always scared I'm going to rip something. Do you know what I'm saying? There we go. So I like to get them started with those. But as soon as I can grab it with my finger, I like to switch over. These things, they have like little teeth. And all those little raw edges, I'm just trying to be careful with it, you know? I'm always scared. You know, we've done all this work up until this point. I'm always scared I'm going to rip a hole in something. How sad would that be? Right here at the end. Yeah, it was because no one was watching the other day. Plus I had music on. I tend to work, like, things just go much smoother for me when I have some music on in the background. All right, here we go. I'm going to start pushing these seams out. Like, I don't know if it's just I can relax. There's my little corner. Isn't that pretty? Now poke that other corner out. If you have a chopstick or something, you can reach inside that opening and just run it right along those seams down towards the bottom. Oh, you have some that have a curve. Well, that's probably really helpful. All right, I'm going to run that chopstick right along the edge. Ooh, not too hard though. Let me see, I just poked right through the edge there. See that? That's that small seam allowance. You got to be careful, Lisa. You gotta be careful. I'm just poking right away. And then flatten her out, and I'm gonna just push in the extra fabric I left at that opening. And leaving that extra, I just get such a much cleaner. You know, for years, I would trim that right along there, and I'd be like, why did I do that? And then struggle to turn in just a teeny tiny amount, right? As soon as it dawned on me to leave extra, not batting, but fabric there, I started getting much cleaner openings. Well, my iron went to sleep. Let's heat her back up. As that's heating up, let me struggle and turn this one. It'll probably cool down by the time I get this turned. But I really want you to see both of these finished before we go. Now there's one more thing to do, right? Is close the opening. You could just hand stitch that one little opening closed. Or you can bring it to the sewing machine and run a straight stitch all around the edge like I did. See that? Right close to the edge, and that's what I'm gonna do. Lost my place. Reach in. I promise y'all, I did not struggle like this the other day. I really did not. There goes the school bus. Did y'all hear that? Just the noise of the school bus brings me right back to when my kids were little. I used to wait for them to get off the bus. And you never knew what you were gonna get, did you? They'd either get off the bus and be happy and they've had a good day, or they get off the bus and they've been hot and they're grumpy and they're hungry and they're tired. You never knew. Oh my glory. Work it, Lisa. Work it. Work it. Oh, here we go. Don't you love the look of that one though? I might have said before, and at today, like I can't remember, but one of my first, I can't say it was my first quilt, but one of my first quilts was a crazy quilt. And I had gotten the pattern from a book that my aunt had when she passed. I got a whole bunch of her fabric and some books, and one was a Victorian crazy quilt book. And that was one of my first quilts that I did. And so crazy quilts have a special place in my heart. And I love any kind of project that looks like something similar to those quilts that I did. I didn't think I was gonna get here, but here I am. All right, Lisa, don't poke the chopstick through there this time. It would be lovely if you didn't do that. And let's turn that extra fabric right inside. I think, you know, when we were at the last house before moving here, I did like a little trunk show. And I think I shared a picture of my mom's Victorian quilt that I made. That was one of my first quilts. I can't say it was the first quilt ever because I can't remember. But it was one of my first quilts. Why? There we go. I think I need some food. I've been eating pumpkin bread all day today, and I think my system is just like, Lisa, will you just eat some real food today and feed us some nutrition? I can't concentrate under these conditions. All right, flattened out. Again, you can hand stitch those little openings closed. But let's bring this to the sewing machine. I'm going to go real quick around the outside of the edge, and then these are done. And then I have something really fun to share with you. So hold on. It's going to take like 3 minutes. I'm going to go quick. How old were you when you started all of this? When I started YouTube was 2016. How many years ago was that? And I'm 50 now, so I can't do the math in my head. But I started quilting 1998. So I don't know how many years ago that was. But there was a long period of time in there when I did no sewing at all. So I don't know that you can count those years. When I was just, life was just too hectic. Do you know what I'm saying? But I started in 1996. 1998, I'm sorry. All right, we're gonna come back here. We're gonna do a quick little straight stitch all the way around, and then these little mug rugs are finished. And you pick anywhere to start, right? There's my little boo-boo there. I poked the chopstick right through there. I'll put a little dab of fabric glue. It'll be fine. I could even do a little zigzag stitch over it later on. It'll kind of blend in with the stitching on the front. All right, I just overlapped where I started by like a good 15 little tiny stitches and then cut my thread, and that ties a knot on the back. If you don't have a thread cutter on your machine, make sure to pass where you started. And then just do a couple little back stitches to lock it in place, right? That opening is not as pretty as my other one. Let's see if I can just blend that in just a little bit more. Not sure where that string came from. Okay, we can officially call these mug rugs finished. Let's come back here. Let me straighten up. Let's move this over here. I can turn off my iron because we're done with that. And the big reveal, that was the wrong camera. So those are the two I did before. Here we go. Two different styles, right? You got the little cuff. You could customize that little cuff or not. You don't have to, right? It looks super cute like that. Strips, patchy, right? Collage. Whew. Delia said, your rooster sounds so angry. He is communicating. He is letting other roosters in the area know he's here. These are my women. This is my territory. He'll also do that if there's food, like some bugs in the ground. He'll do that. Not so much that call right there, but he'll make noises and the hens know there's food. So he alerts them, but it's not really what you're hearing now. This is my house. These are my girls. Don't come over here. Communicating. Will vinyl work on those? You mean to put the name here? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. How you doing, Sheila? Aren't they cute? Yes. Most of all, they're so much fun, right? I mean, it didn't take a lot of brain power to make these. And I just shared a couple of different ways, right? Glue stick, fusible interfacing. You could do this quilt as you go and, you know, actually piece your pieces on here with a straight stitch, right? And not have the raw edges. So many possibilities, right? I do have a couple little fray bits that I could trim up. There we go. Okay, now if you stay to the end, I'm so glad you're here. If you came back on the replay, I'm so glad you're here. If you are on Facebook, there's a link in the description box that brings you over to my business page. If you haven't already, you might want to click on that, go to my business page and hit follow. This past week, I sort of hinted at what I'm about ready to do, just to sort of pique some excitement about it, right? But every once in a while, I like to do a giveaway. Not all the time, because I really don't want my channel to be like, this is the channel for the giveaways, and that's the only reason people are here, right? I really feel like my channel is for community first, right? And but every once in a while I like to do a giveaway as a super huge thank you for joining in every week, right? So today we have a little giveaway, but I'm doing two things, okay? Last week we made the Christmas ornament trivet. It's a trivet. We're gonna give this away. I made this one. I'm gonna give it to somebody watching this particular video. So yes, this will be one of the giveaways. And then some time ago, Miss Valeria sent me a box of some goodies for giveaways, and this was in there. So have y'all seen these? This is the Riley Blake from 2021 Christmas tree mini quilt kit. The finished size of this quilt is 24 by 30. The pattern, the acrylic template, and the fabric for the quilt top and binding is all in this box. Don't you just love the little box though? Like if I made this, if I was keeping this and I used all the goodies inside, I would still keep the box. It's got a magnet. Yeah, there's a little acrylic ruler inside, the quilt pattern, and it looks like lots of fabric goodies inside. And I'm not going to pull it out because right now it's all packaged so nice and neat. But look at that. Just a quick flip of what's on top. So yeah, this is going to be a giveaway. And the only thing you had to do to enter was comment on this video. Now, let me tell you, the live comments aren't going to work. Next week, we're going to give these things away. Not today, next week. So you have to comment on this video, not in the live. Okay, so when you're done, when we're done streaming, click out of the live and come back to this video and comment in the normal comment section. Because next week, I'm going to pick two winners from this video with a random comment picker, and it's going to pick from the normal comment section. You don't have to say anything special, like no hashtag Lisa or hashtag trivet or hashtag it's a trivet. Right? You just have to leave a comment, hopefully a nice one. That would be lovely. But you just have to leave a comment. And it's just my way of giving back to those who watch regularly and are here as part of the community. It's kind of like our secret because I'm not announcing it in the title of the video, giveaway, so that all kinds of people who are usually not here can join in. But it's for those who are always here. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that sound mean? I hope it's not mean. I hope that's not mean. Lisa, you were not on the creative crew. Yes, you have to join that because that's so easy to share pictures of your stuff, right? And I would love to see your applique. Darlene said it better be a nice one, the comment she means. So yeah, next week we're drawing the winners. Again, Christmas tree. Super cute box. Like, I was halfway tempted to keep this for myself just for the box. But I was like, no, Lisa, it's the season for giving, and Valeria was so nice to send it. It was tempting, though. I'm not going to lie. I like to keep it real with y'all. And then the other prize will be this trivet. Look how pretty she is. 2 giveaways next week. If you can't make it live, that's okay. You'll come back on the replay. And then the 2 names that are drawn, you'll send me an email with your address. Please do not post your address anywhere in the comments section at all, okay? But you'll email me your address if I pick your name. Look how red my face is. It's hot in here. Does Poppy talk to the chickens? Excuse me. You know, when we first got the chickens, and the chickens would migrate, they migrate around the house if we let them out of their run, right? They have a great big fenced-in area that's just open for them. But if Harlan's home, it's too many chickens for me to do it now. I can't control them all. He can't control them all either. It's too many. But occasionally he lets them out so they can range on all the property and eat all the bugs in the yard, right? So they kind of work in circles when they're out like that around the house. If they're in the front yard and Poppy sees them, he used to go off like he hated them. And now he sees them and he doesn't even look up at them. Like, he's not bothered by them at all. He doesn't talk to them. He's like, oh, there's a chicken. Now, if a wild turkey walks up the road, he goes off, and you can hear him a mile down the street. He cannot stand a turkey, but he's not bothered by the chickens anymore. Diane, I helped you make a collage quilt for your grandson. I hope he loved it. I'm sure he did. I want to thank my moderators today. Mimsy, thank you so much for posting the links. Makes it really easy for everyone who's here live to get the links. Everyone watching on the replay. Again, every week I have someone asking me, where do I get the pattern? It's in the description box. You have to open up the description box, like next to the title of the video or underneath of the title of the video. It'll say more or see more. They're always changing that. But you click on that and the box opens up. There's all kinds of links, y'all. I put the link today for my Teflon sheets that I was using, right? I have some over here. I have some next to my heat press. I use them all the time. Not just for pressing fabric stuff. I cover, like when I'm doing heat transfer vinyl, I'll cover everything too, right? My mini glow board is in there. The free pattern for the stocking is in there. My Facebook page is in there. Creative Crew is in there. There's my Etsy shop is in there. All kinds of stuff. You never know what you're going to find in the description box. Kim said, do they know you? Like the chickens? They know Harlan more than they know me. But do you know that, now I might get this number wrong, because I'm always horrible at recalling numbers and like statistics. But if I'm not mistaken, it's a large number. Chickens remember like 500 faces. It could be 50 faces. It starts with a 5. But it's more than 5. Chickens remember lots and lots and lots of faces. I go out there every day, but Harlan's really their caregiver parent. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll go out if he's not working from home. If he's gone on center, then I go out and collect eggs once or twice a day, whatever. If I hear a noise, I'll go check on them. If I'm going to the garden, I have to walk by them, I talk to them. So I'm sure they recognize my face. But they really know Harlan. And like they really know my dad because he goes out every day and throws birdseed on the ground for them when he's filling up the bird feeders. So like they really know them better than me. But I don't invest the time with them. Like the chickens are really his thing. Oh, he can go out there and pick up a chicken and walk around with it like a baby. Some chickens are more friendly like that than others. Right now we have a couple of girls that just love him. And if he goes out there, they run up to him so he will pick them up. And you can walk around and hold them and everything. There's a couple of chickens out there that even he cannot get close to pick them up. They'll stand near you, but they don't want nothing to do with being held or petted or anything like that. The Teflon mat is a little bit different than the silicone mat, right? This is like, you could bake, this is a baking sheet. You know what I'm saying? See how thin that is? You can't really see through it, right? But it's very flexible and flowy, right? The silicone mats, I have my purple one right here. You can see through, right? So I love using the silicone mats for pressing applique and layering lots of pieces with applique, right? Because you can see through this with a window or a light pad, right? But it still protects everything from heat and nothing sticks to this, right? And kind of grippy, so my pieces don't move around as I'm pressing. Right, so different. Kim, yes, I'm here. So I changed the time. I used to come on at 12. But then I was starting to get hangry at 12 o'clock, right? And I'm trying to be in a good mood while I'm doing a video. And I was always hungry. And plus I felt a little rushed sometimes, trying to get things together in the morning. So, a few weeks ago, I changed the time to 2. And that gives me time to do a little bit of work in the morning, have some lunch, eat a Snickers bar, and then come, right? And I find that my mood is a lot better. And I'm not like in the back of my head thinking, I should have got that done this morning. Oh, I needed to do that. I've already done that, and I had plenty of time to get ready. Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Darlene, okay, so this purple one, let me just tell you, this purple one is specific for applique. Where's the name of it? It's called Silicone Applique Applifuse Mat. The Gypsy Quilter. So I'm sure you could search the Gypsy Quilter and find this purple one, right? I love purple. But no shade to the Gypsy Quilter because I love this mat and I use it a lot. You can see I just had it right there, right? I was just using it the other day. But just let me tell you, for the price of this one, and I'm saying this because I'm someone who pinches pennies even though I bought this for myself. Right? This was more expensive. A lot more expensive than the ones you can buy on Amazon. In several of my videos, when I link a silicone mat, I link you to Amazon because you can get several different sizes for like 15 bucks. You get 3 or 4 mats, all different size ones with a clear center. And this might be tan or black for a lot cheaper. But I do love this mat. I bought it with my own money from the Gypsy Quilter, because it was purple. But I have a whole bunch of mats. Let me just show you as an example. The ones you can get on Amazon. Look at that monster mat. This came in a package with this one and a smaller one, and it was like 15 bucks. It's kind of like the pink tax, you know what I'm saying? Like, the pink razors are more expensive than the black razors at the grocery store, but they're the same razor. I've never understood that. No shade to this mat. I love it. I use it all the time. Trinita, that's awesome. You just found it on Amazon. Okay, good. All right, everybody. I hope, if anything, that this project has just sparked some ideas. Even if you use the pattern shape of the stocking, but you compile your fabrics in a totally different way than what I shared today, I think that's awesome. What would be really helpful to me is if you shared this video with your friends, either on Instagram, Facebook, or you just sent them a text message with the link and said, hey, I think you'd really like this project and the pattern is free, check it out. That would help me out tremendously. Join me on Facebook if you haven't already, if you do Facebook. That would help me tremendously. And don't forget, leave a comment, but comments in the live don't count. I wish they did, but they don't. When we're done, come back, leave a comment in the regular comment section. Next week, we have 2 different prizes. Thanks for hanging out with me to the very end. I hope y'all have a fantastic weekend. Tomorrow, I'm going to go see some old quilts from Matthews, and I am so stoked about that. Like, I am super excited about that. And, yeah, enjoy this weather while it lasts with the windows open. If the mosquitoes would just go away, it would be perfect, right? All right, everybody. I love you. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next Friday. I know what we're doing next Friday, but I'm not going to say yet, because I love to keep a secret sometimes. Bye, everybody.